everybody, and welcome back to another episode of This Week's Stoke. We have started the season, but it's been a bit of a weird one because we still haven't seen any women's races. So with that in mind, I really wanted to get kind of that energy pumping as we talk about the upcoming female races, and brought on Lila today to talk with us a little bit about the upcoming slalom season. And so what's super cool about Lila is Lila's been racing independently and actually won the NORAM slalom title last season. So that means that she has World Cup spots in all the slaloms this season. So it'll be super fun to talk with her about her plan for the year as we kind of get closer to Levy, which will be really exciting to kind of kick off that women's tech starts. So Lila, thank you so much for coming on today. Super fun to have you back on the show and be able to just talk through with you a little bit about how your journey has been, how we've gotten to this point right now, and then how you're planning to capitalize on this upcoming season. So thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, super happy to be here, Parker. Always loved my Sync community, and I've been with Sync for a while, and big supporters for my skiing and my ability to continue. So I always love talking to you.
So it's super fun to have you on, right? Because you have been having an interesting couple of years, to say the least. You have an awesome perspective on the sport, a really cool perspective on just like determination and facing adversity. And I think that those are really important pieces to talk about and to share with the ski community, because let's be real, ski racing is not one of those things that's always easy. No, and so for you, I kind of want to start with just like a little run through about how the last couple seasons went, and then we'll dive into what's coming. So can you kind of just go through a little bit of like your injury that you faced last year, how everything's been going as an independent athlete, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so last year going into an Olympic season, I blew it a little bit on my mountain bike, and I had a crash in August before the season started. And I kept it on the down low because I wanted to try to fight back silently at that point and just see what I could do. But I was on crutches up until 3 weeks before the season started, and I only had like 3-4 weeks to do all my physical preparation and to get back on snow. I ended up going and racing Levy after only 3 days of training on snow. And my leg at that point, my fibula was still broken, but because it was non-weight bearing, the doctor said it would be okay. And I said, well, I'll test it out skiing and see how it feels. And it was either a tough move or a dumb move, I'm not sure, but it didn't get worse with skiing. It just hurt. And so I went to Levy, and I did my best because I knew I had the opportunity with the starts into an Olympic season. You 100% know what the result is if you don't try. And I had to try, but I definitely pushed the timeline, and I did it on purpose. I'm usually an athlete that will tend to go easier and have a prolongated timeline like I did with my back several years ago. But I knew that this was a chance I had to take, and I just needed to kind of see what I was made of and at least ski and be on snow. But it was a very tough season, especially adding in COVID and missing 2 qualifiers for the Olympics. And it was kind of a miracle that I pulled off what I pulled off last year.
And yeah, just even bringing that up, like a miracle you pulled off what you pulled off. Like, no, Lila, we know you're out here grinding, trying to figure it out. And like you won the slalom overall, like NORAM title. That's a big deal. And that's huge. Congratulations are in order for that. And it's unfortunate that the Olympics didn't go well, but I think that goes to a true testament to who you are as an athlete, that regardless of how things pan out, you don't give up and you figure out how to get one step closer. And so that's what's super cool. And so that's a great way to transition into this year, right? Refresh, new chapter.
Yes.
You have slalom starts in every World Cup this year, which is awesome. So what do you kind of plan to do as we approach that first slalom in a couple of weeks with Levy? And it's a repeat too. You've been there, kind of got a tough one last year. What are you kind of thinking going into it?
Yeah, I really like Levy. That slope is fun. It's a exciting place to be at the beginning of the season. It's kind of Christmassy up there. It's a little bit dark, but it just adds to the whole feeling of winter, and you just step back into it. Levy is a place where I've had success. 2 years ago, I scored World Cup points there, and I like that slope a lot. I like the way it rolls with the flats and then onto the pitch. And so I have really positive feelings going into Levy. I had a second surgery after this season and was able to get my ankle/leg in a better place to be able to train more full time. with my physical preparation. And so even though I started my skiing preparation late and didn't start until August, I feel like I'm in a really good place physically. And that always gives me confidence going into the season. When you feel physically prepared, it's so much easier to face the angst that you can almost feel from the racing, and kind of switch it from a like nervousness and an anxiousness to an excitement. And so that's the energy that I'm bringing into Levy right now.
No, I love that confidence, that preparation, that like no regrets mentality, right? You did the work, now it's time to show up and do it. And I think too, like you have a pretty unique start routine. And I know that we have to talk about it a little bit because you kind of getting yourself in the zone, and you haven't ever been bothered by just having to do your own program and getting in that specific mindset. So what do you try and do to hone in to be ready to execute in the start gate?
Yeah, good question. I have a really interesting journey when it comes to warm up, recovery, physical prep. I've always, well, not always, recently, I've started operating under the mentality to not sacrifice health for performance. And so I really try to make myself physiologically prepared going into a race. And one of the biggest things for me with that is making sure my nervous system is ready, and my visual system. Skiing is a very visually dominant sport. And so, yeah, you might see me doing some like really weird breathing exercises, maybe some vision training. And all of that is to get me in the state where my body, even if my mind is a little bit all over the place, or I'm a little nervous or unsure, I know my body's ready. And when my body's ready, then that's when I can tap into the mentality a little bit. It's easier, quite simply. And so, and I also know where my activation level is. So, if you think about that scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're sleeping and 10 being you're just bouncing off the walls, like if you have 3 cups of coffee, I know that my activation state physiologically is around a 7. And so I tend to run a little bit calmer. I'm quite a calm person. And so I usually have to build myself up. So if I'm doing some wild breathing exercises, or things that maybe look kung fu like in nature, it's to get the heart rate to actually to step up a little bit. And I'd much rather be activated and have to find a way to control or calm or manage that, rather than being too calm and have no energy. And
Yeah.
so this is just the journey as an athlete. You start to learn how you operate and where your zone is, where you operate best. And then once you're in that zone, it becomes a matter of mentality. And it starts with the thoughts that you tell yourself, and how you're approaching, how you're perceiving what's going on. And it's really easy to kind of shut off and feel like you're in a reactive state, where it's like, okay, it's a race, nervous, results, this, that. And it's part of the training that you have to go through with yourself to give yourself a really positive mentality, and switch that activation from a fear or a threat-based activation to like an excitement-based activation. And so yeah, that's kind of what's going through my mind on race day. And every single race is completely different depending on the slope, the conditions. Ultimately, you don't let anything external bother you, but nobody's perfect. You deal with it. And so these are the ways, the routines that I have are ways for me to be consistent. So I have a gauge of what I'm going to need on that particular day.
No, and it's super cool too, right? A little bit of like getting yourself in that fight and flight mode. Like you're talking about how to attack it when you're nervous. And I also like too that your idea of knowing your body and you know what you need to be successful. And I'm kind of curious, does that come from all of the time that you've kind of had to learn about yourself through being an independent athlete, right? I feel like that must play a huge role in understanding exactly what you need, figuring out how to do it for yourself, and then execution, right?
Yeah,
And
big
so
time.
how does that independent athlete piece play into your upcoming season? Are you just like dialed in on all fronts because now you know yourself from A to Z and the process from A to Z, and just kind of all of the pieces could be coming together now?
Yeah, being so independent. You really have to learn how to rely on yourself and be responsible for so many things to a fault almost. Like it's not how would I say this? At the World Cup level, to constantly be independent and having to organize everything and logistics and fundraising and all of these things, it's really difficult, and I'm not convinced it's sustainable. But what it does teach you is it teaches you what you're good at and what you need. And what I realized, and I have it this year, I really needed a coach who could help me with all of the logistics and training. So I hired someone from Slovenia, of all places. I'm half Slovenian, as many people know. And we've been a great team, and he's really helped organize all of my training and taken a huge load off of me logistically. So I can just focus on skiing and working on my technique and getting better. And so as an independent athlete, you really do learn where the gaps are and where your strengths are. And it's definitely something that I'm grateful that I've experienced. And it's taught me so much. To be out of a system and have to create your own system ultimately is really empowering, and honestly probably really valuable long term beyond just the sport.
Yeah, definitely. Like you now understand all the pieces to running
Yeah.
a successful life,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah, essentially,
So,
yeah, you know the pieces that you need, and I do feel a lot really dialed this year. I've had so many years of, especially with strength and conditioning. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life is write my own strength and conditioning program. There's a reason why you pay somebody to, like, thousands of dollars to do it. It's so time consuming and it's so tough. And when you don't have the actual formal scientific training, you kind of look at your program and you're like, am I doing enough? Am I doing what I need to be doing? But on the other side of that, you have to learn to really trust yourself too. And you write out a plan and you work backwards, and then day to day you check in with how you're feeling. And yeah, you have to be really responsible and honest with yourself. But it going into this season, I've had so many years of kind of putting that together. It feels better than it's ever been. And I have lots of mentors and people that I reach out to and work with and pick their brains for the programming. And I feel really good about it this year. So things like that, for example, and that's just physical training, but you also find that mentally, you find that financially, you start to realize like, okay, this is how it works. This is how it rolls. This is what I need to be successful. This is what I can do on my own. This is where I need help. And those are things you definitely learn being on your own.
no, that's super cool. And just like a major applause for how you've been able to kind of teach yourself this, get to a point now where now you feel like you've got it dialed. And so that kind of transitions perfectly to what are the goals this year? What do we want to see out of Lila? Like we have things dialed on the back end in the preparation, body's feeling good. You've got the starts. What are you trying to accomplish?
World Cup. It's all World Cup for me this year. And that's been a goal of mine for a long time. I feel like I'm finally in a place with my team dynamic and with myself that it's more achievable than it's ever been to start being more consistent with it. And my goal this season, there's a couple. One is to make world champs
Yep.
and compete there. And another is to really break into the top 30, top 25, top 20 on the World Cup. I know that I'm capable of it, and I'm excited for the opportunity this year to have that chance. I mean, I didn't expect to have this chance, and I was almost at the point last season where I didn't know what to do, and then the NORAM opportunity opened up with the starts, and I said, okay, this is my path, and I just follow it. I follow these signs to continue and to keep believing, and I'm definitely really optimistic going into the season, and definitely ready to do something on the World Cup circuit.
It's super cool, and it's fun too because I've seen a lot of this journey and have been in my own way kind of watching it happen on the side and with you. So it's really awesome to see you finding this success and putting the pieces together and going up against any adversity that you see, the extra hurdles, the hardship, etc., and just not seeing it as something to pull you back, but to excel you. And I think that that's a really powerful lesson and something that's just even really cool for young female athletes to see. That it is something that if you want it, go get it. And it
Yeah.
may take you all the way around the path, but
Oh,
at
yeah,
the
it will.
at
It
the end of
definitely will.
yeah, and at the end of the day, like, you are gonna end and get into this new season and just be ready to go, fired up, and I think that's really cool. And so, Lila, I'm super, super excited that we got to sit down and chat about this, and I hope the community got something out of it, and it's so fun to have you part of our sync community as well. And so we're really excited to cheer you on. We are pumped for Levy, and we'll see you as you kind of progress through this whole season and wish you luck on all your goals.
Thank you so much, Parker. It's always a pleasure, and I'll definitely stay involved with Sync and try to get you some video content through the season. And yeah, just definitely really stoked on Sync and on this opportunity and working with you and just feeling that support. It means a lot to me. It's been a long journey, and you never know what's going to happen, but you realize the longer you're in it, the more how worth it it is, no matter what happens in the end.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. And here, that community will have some videos soon, so you can learn from some turns from Lila. But
Yeah, and if anyone wants to follow me, obviously, Lila Lapani on Instagram. You can go to my website, teamlila.com. I have my race schedule put up there for the World Cups, and there's a couple fun little videos and content, things about me, ways that you can support my journey. Just it's really open, and I want to include as many people as possible on this journey because it's about all of us. It's about me from a result and like career standpoint, but that extends so far into everyone who follows skiing and who just loves sport and loves all of these values that we've talked about: perseverance, commitment, determination. And I want to share as much as I can of me with all of you. So yeah, teamlila.com or find me on Instagram.
sweet. Thank you so much, Lila. And to everybody else, I'll catch you all next time. So make sure you tune in for some more races soon. Thanks, guys.